Al, tee it up, man. You had grabbed one of the resources. That's what I always call that book. I throw it into the resource manual of how to operate your business. And we shared a couple of weeks ago. We've talked about the transformation for us, which was the light bulb that really led to a lot of the things that we did at NAEA and the mastermind. Was how in the hell do we get Kinder out of production? Right. And we had always talked about the two things. We'd always talked about, CHSA, proven repeatable system for anybody to articulate the value of why anybody would want to do business with you. And then the other was, simple number, straight talk, big profits. Those two things. And the conversation with Kyle a couple of weeks ago sparked the thing that I was like, those two weren't even possible until we had the first. And the first was having a plan to really operate and run our business, which we gleaned from Mastering the Rockefeller Habits with Vern Harnish. And you've got the graduate level edition book there, Al, Scaling Up. There's other operating systems too, right? It's the EOS. You can grab Traction. You can go through all of Gino's stuff, which Gino's a disciple of Vern. I mean, he gives credit to Vern right in the opening page of Traction. The other is 4Ds of execution, right? But you've got to have some framework to be able to think about and strategically run and operate your business. But Al, you were reading us a really important distinction and awareness section out of Scaling Up. I think it's super important for you to reread that for everybody.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's tough to, there's a lot of noise out there and everybody's trying to grab your attention, including us. This just happens to be a topic we're super passionate about, but I wanted to share something with you guys. I didn't even share before when we were shooting it. And I bank at PNC Bank, and this is I'm not, endorsing them by any means. I've been with them for a very long time. And I walked into the bank to do some banking, and I've seen this a couple of times, and I wanted to tell you guys about it because it kind of ties into this, is that their newest like promotion thing they're doing is it says on the wall, we've been brilliantly boring for X amount of years. And I was just like, I said to the manager, I said, that is a brilliant marketing campaign, brilliantly boring. Uh-huh. And it's because, look, this is not going to be a boring event. So don't draw that conclusion. But I say that because, this isn't the super sizzly AI sexy stuff that you're seeing everywhere in this is focusing on the things that you have. I mean, maybe it's a little boring at first, or maybe from the title, you think scaling up. It's not some big flashy thing, but what I wanted to get to was, the dumbest in the room. Okay. I opened this book up many, many years ago. I read it and I picked it back up because a lot of the principles that are talked about in this book, we're going to be really transforming into what it looks like to grow a real estate team, grow a real estate organization into something that works harder for you than you're working in it. In order to do that, you got to be the dumbest in the room. So I'm going to read. Can I read the passage, boys?
Yeah, please.
So team leaders know they have succeeded in building an organization that can scale and is fun to run. I love how they threw that in there. When they are the dumbest people in the room. In turn, if they think they have all the answers or they act like they have all the answers, it guarantees organizational silence and exacerbates blindness. So, that kind of just leads right into, what we're going to be doing, at Agent to CEO. So we talk about two different rooms, guys. And I want to, Jay, love your opinion on this because you've been in a lot of rooms. I mean, joined every mastermind, you and Mike, John, you as well. And I have as well. But I want to find out, like, what does it feel like? Like, how do you know you're in the right room as it relates to an event? And then I want to move over to the dumbest in the room as it relates to your company. And that's really the real where the real magic comes in, is when you're looking around the boardroom, you're like, dang, I'm surrounded by people that are way smarter than me. Yep. And that's the pinnacle, right? Yep. But in order to get to that room, to be the dumbest in that room, you first have to start inserting yourself as the dumbest in other rooms. What do we mean by that?
it's getting in rooms where people have when you can look at everybody in the room and their levels above where you're at, and you can start to see what's your next biggest obstacle. It's like being able to see around the corner. When we were a part of the mastermind, we did 3 times a year. We were in the mastermind with Clayton Mask when they were scaling to a billion. And, when we started, it was, their biggest challenge was, they hired so many employees that they couldn't get all their chairs. They had a big stack of chairs when we got there, and they were trying to put all these chairs together. Their biggest bottleneck at the time, where they're hiring so many people, is they couldn't get the office chairs put together fast enough for the people they were hiring. And I was like, that is a problem I've never encountered. Right. So, seeing them, grow, their leadership team and how they executed, how they made decisions, but getting in the room with people that are double the size that you're at and seeing how they operate and seeing how they conduct their meetings and their strategy and how they make decisions. It's like seeing the future. Once you see it, you can't see it. I remember when Mike went down and visited in Austin. What's his name? Oh, dang, I just lost it. It was
I can see his
GDP. At the time, they were doing about 12 million when we were at about 3 or 4 million. And he said, dude, I would have walked on, glass barefooted all the way down there just to see how they operated, because once you see that, you can go back and you see now what you should be doing. And so it's really just about seeing where people are at that are above where you're at, so you can see what it looks like and how they operate. I think it's not about them necessarily being smarter, but you see the operation of what you have to be, who you have to become as an organization in order to get there.
Yeah, there's a slide that I always share at the beginning of KT, and it asks the question, right? Does the group increase my awareness of who I am, where I am, and what I have to do? Does the group inspire me to take action based on my new awareness? And does the group offer accountability for the actions I'm committing to? So that's kind of the 3 questions to check the box, right? Awareness, action, and accountability, right? Does that group do that? Is there inspiration there? And most of the problem that we understand, but a lot of people don't, is that they're just not problem aware. And, getting into rooms that are going to challenge you, it's not that you're the dumbest one in there, but you're not the smartest one. And in whatever area of your life that you're trying to improve. And, that's the first thing, man. Do I have do I have a level of awareness? Is it realizing, that there's things that I'm just not seeing? Because we all have blind spots, right? That's why we hire great coaches, because they can see around corners. They can see our blind spots that we can't see. But they also have to inspire you to take action. That room is like, damn, I don't want to show up at the next. And that was how we were with Clay, right? We didn't want to show up at the next thing and not make progress on what it is, because we knew the other groups that were going to be in there, they were on a roll. And we were like, man, we can't let them. So there's a little bit of a competitiveness, but inspiration. But then a group like that, right? Like showing up is accountability. And it's like, man, I'm not going to show up and not do what I said I was going to do. So I think those are kind of the important factors to look into, in any group that you step into.
I think part of the benefit, I used to always say half of the benefit of being that specific mastermind, and there were several that we were part of that were very similar in their structure, but knowing that we had to present in front of that group where we were trying to go, and what was the biggest problem. Getting to that clarity before you go is probably half the value.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you have to present, you have to be crystal clear on where you're at, where you're trying to go, and what is the problem you're trying to solve, so that you can get that feedback from people who have been through it and get some, and confidently move in a direction. Because a lot of times you think you might know what your next step is, but you really haven't had any peers that are at a higher level say, man, maybe check this, or maybe you need to do that. And getting that feedback so you can go back with confidence and take that next move is, I think, extremely valuable in those rooms.
Yeah, man. It made me start thinking about my journey. And the first time I stepped into a room with you guys was in 2010 in Dallas. And it was at the EGS. And this wasn't a big EGS. This was like maybe 200 people in the room. It's before you guys started, getting to 600, 700, 900 people. And I'm grateful to this day there was only 200 in that room, because that was when I had my aha. If it was too big of a room, I don't know that it would have the impact, but I started So first thing, the first step, if you're thinking of stages, is where are you at in your journey to know if you're the dumbest in the room? And the first step is awareness. You had brought it up, John. Now let's talk about, are you aware? Maybe you're not aware. That's a good reason you should grab a ticket to Agent to CEO. You will get awareness quick. After you have, maybe you have an awareness. Maybe you know that you're stuck. Maybe you know that you don't know what you don't know or what you need to know. And then the next step is, okay, what do I need to grasp onto? Who do I need to connect with that's already been where I'm at so that I can actually now take action? I have the awareness now. What do I do next? And so for me, sitting in that room, I had the awareness. I became ultra aware. And then I gained an inspiration or a new belief that I can actually do that, because I'm with other people that, they maybe they're smarter than me, maybe they're not, but they've been where I want to go already. And they're the culture that you, Mike, John created with that event is a culture of bringing people up, pulling the people up. And John, there's that analogy. You're in one of three places. You're either in a room where you're pulling people up to your level, right? Or you're in a room where you're in equal kind of like peers that are in the same spots you are, or you're down here looking to get pulled up. And so this is definitely a room where I think you're going to get a little bit of all three, but I mean, we're going to have some powerhouses. We're going to have people. What's cool about this too is we have an equal amount of lady CEOs and men CEOs who have grown massive organizations and teams that have actually been able to replace themselves and step out of the business. Tina Call, and she's not completely stepped out, but she's replaced herself. And actually it was John Sheplack. I think this might've been the second year that I went, and he stood up there. I'll never forget this. Is the one of the many wise things he said was, are you replacing yourself every day in your business? Yeah. And that's a really good question to start asking if you're wondering, like, am I a right person to get in this room? Are you replacing yourself with all the low dollar per hour tasks that you find yourself doing on a daily basis that are getting in the way of you doing high dollar per hour tasks or even thinking strategically?